Unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time.
All right, here I'm going to go get myself into trouble. Immigration, even illegal immigration, isn't the problem. I know. It certainly seems like it is. But it's not. It really isn't. The problem is welfare. Okay? And the bigger problem is a lack of guns. That's right. If you restore and promote the idea that everyone is their own protector, that they are responsible for policing their own lives and their own communities, and then you get rid of welfare, no government entitlements, no handouts, you get rid of the problem of bad immigration, right? Because it could be assumed that everybody that comes in is contributing to the economy. They're not getting handouts. They're not getting anything for free. They're not automatically stealing from you. Right now, the situation is that people come over and they immediately get money. That came from where? From you, taxpayer. It automatically gets siphoned out of your pocket and put into theirs via health care, via tickets, bus rides, rent subsidies, hotels, you name it. That's the problem. If you end that, then you end the incentive to come. Unless they get a job. And if they get a job at competitive rates, because they have to pay competitive rent, because they're not being subsidized, there's no Section 8 housing, they have to pay the same amount of rent or the same mortgage as you do, which means they have to get a job that pays what your job pays, or the job that you want pays. They can't really undercut because they can't afford to undercut because they're not getting subsidies. The welfare is what makes them able to work for pennies on the dollar. It's because something is being provided to them. You've got to take that away. And, the gun part. In fact, the gun part's the most important part. It's the very most important part. Because the gun part is what keeps the government from stealing your money and giving it to them. If everybody has a gun, and everybody knows how to use them, and everybody's walking around with a couple of 6-shooters on their hips, you don't really get the local supervisors acting out of line. You know what I mean? The cities, big blue cities, all have one thing in common: gun control. Nobody can have their own gun. You have to call the cops. If somebody breaks into your house or breaks into your car, you got to call some other asshole with his gun. So, big cities aren't anti-gun. They're very pro-gun. They just don't want you to have a gun. They want the cops to have a gun because the cops get to decide where to show up and how to deal with criminals. And that's why we've got these blue city problems where they protect the criminals and punish the law-abiding citizens, because the system is set up to take from the good people and give to the bad people. It's just kind of an automatic thing. If you're a person that wants to take from a good person that works hard, you're automatically a bad person. Well, that's a leftist government person. It's built on theft. Taking from you, giving to them, to somebody else who will vote for them. It's paying. It's payment for a vote. That's obvious what the whole immigration thing is about. It's not even about the people. I mean, I guess it is, because those are the people that decide to come in. People that will relocate for free shit. You know? Are you one of those people? If you found out that you could move to, I don't know, let's say move to Bali, and if you move to Bali, you'd get a free apartment, a monthly stipend, and a pretty good shot at just some kind of, I don't know, silly job, maybe in a field or doing type work. I don't know. But if you're going to get a place to stay and money to eat, and the weather's great, why wouldn't you do that? Especially if that same thing isn't offered to the Bali citizens. You know, all you got to do is move there. They give you this thing, and then once you get there, you find out that the people that continue giving it to you belong to a certain party. One party is saying, we got to get rid of this bullshit. Maybe you're going to vote for the party that says continue giving the shit. It's the shit. It's the shit that's bringing people here. Stop giving the shit out. I don't hear enough of this talk. You know, every time you hear some talk, you hear Doge and everybody talking about cutting benefits, but it seems like every time you get to the benefits that matter, they say, oh, but you don't need to worry. We don't need to worry about poor people who need welfare. We're not going to cut those benefits. You know, they always seem to just go, it's just crime, just criminals, and blah, blah, blah. For me, if you're getting money, tax money at all, if you're getting subsidies, like a payment, I'm not talking about a tax write-off, because tax is theft. So every tax write-off is good. I'm never going to complain about somebody not paying, air quotes, their fair share. You know? But a lot of companies get subsidies. They get paid, like corn. A lot of these things, you know, they get paid so that the price can stay low. Welfare is a subsidy. Rent control is a subsidy. You know, if a person can't charge market rate, they are subsidizing the tenant. The tenant doesn't have to compete. The guy getting the mortgage has to compete, but the tenant doesn't have to compete because he's being subsidized. If you're getting a subsidy, you're the recipient of stolen goods. Okay, let's just get real with that. I don't care how much you want to pat yourself on the back and say, but I'm doing good, it's for art. Your art grant, if it comes from tax dollars, is theft. You're receiving stolen goods, you're a bad person. Okay? If you're on welfare and you're getting your check from the government, you're a bad person, because the government stole that with guns. Now, I'm not saying you can't accept charity. If you go to church, your community, GoFundMe, you know, Give, Send, Go. People will get around and they'll help you. You know, but the idea is you should be accountable to those people. If you're getting government money, you're getting stolen money. Because those tax weren't voluntarily given by people. They were given at the threat of imprisonment. You know, guys with guns. The threat is that guys with guns will come and take you if you don't pay your taxes, and they'll put you in a cell, in a cage. So if you're taking that money, you're bad. I don't care how cute you are, little mamacita, or a Russian guy that comes. There's all kinds of people that take. I have a friend who's on the dole. She just gets free money. She's half insane, but she's employable. She doesn't have to take that money. But she knows she's addicted to it. Once you start getting the free money, that's the grift. I'm Peter Pan. Is it Peter Pan that, no. Who did the takes from the rich and gives to the poor? That guy. It's wrong. It's just wrong to do that. But there are millions and millions of people who are enrolled in that scam to be recipients. And every single time that we have an election, we have a system where people are allowed to vote to steal somebody else's things and give it to them. We're allowed to do that. I mean, on paper, you're not supposed to be able to pay somebody to vote. You're not supposed to be able to say, hey, I will buy your vote for X amount of dollars. You're not supposed to be able to negotiate that. You'll get thrown in jail if you say, I will pay you $1,000 to vote for me. But yet that's exactly what subsidies are. It's exactly what they are. Rent control, welfare, any kind of check at all that you didn't pay into. Social Security is different because they take it from you only to supposedly give it back at some later date because you can't be trusted to save your own money, apparently. They got to save it for you. But that's what's got to get rid of. If you don't get rid of that, and if you don't get rid of the incentive, you're going to always have it. And it doesn't matter about the immigrants. You're going to have that stateside. They'll just shift their focus to getting natives, Americans addicted to welfare. It's just, right now it just seems their plan is that it makes more sense. It seems smarter to just import them very quickly rather than having to convince people, because certain demographics actually like to work and blah, blah, blah. Maybe, I don't know. But certain demographics are just more susceptible to, here you go, here's free shit. Here's your free food coupons. You can spend them on booze and drugs even because you can convert them to cash, and we won't mind. In fact, we'll even set up a free needles center if you want one. Just keep voting for us. Or just keep making the problem visible so that we can get other voters to vote for us in this fake display of compassion and virtue. It's totally fake. That. Yeah, you got to get rid of the welfare. And in order to get rid of the welfare, you got to get the guns. You got to keep the guns. You got to get people armed. That way, when the spigot runs out and the people start thinking, well, maybe I'll just steal some stuff from Walgreens. No, you won't. Because the staff at Walgreens are armed. And the neighbors are armed. People don't want to see you stealing from Walgreens. Half the reason why these people can get away with stealing from Walgreens and walk out is because the public has been sufficiently trained into not doing anything. Because if they do anything, you get Daniel Penny. They come after you and they wreck your life. They put you in jail, or at least they take you to court, parade you around like you're some kind of monster because you defended yourself in your house or you defended somebody else because you stepped in to stop a crime. How dare you? How dare you, you disgusting vigilante? That's not justice. Justice is having judges that are paid for. You're seeing how the judges are doing things now. Are judges making any Is there any justice in the justice system? No. There are only judgments. And they make the judgments and we see what they are. They're protecting the scam. That's what they're doing. They're protecting this welfare scheme, this scam, bringing people in, subsidizing them, and paying for their vote. I think one of the reasons why they bring in foreigners is that they're just cheaper. They're cheaper on labor. They can treat them more poorly. They have leverage. Even the left likes their leverage over these immigrants. It's not like they're going, oh, these immigrants are poor little immigrants. We're here to protect you. We're here to no. They like them being vulnerable. They want you to be vulnerable. They want them to be vulnerable. They don't want them to have any guns. They don't want you to have any guns. They're just easier to control. A brand new, fresh off the boat, can't speak English. He's easier to control than you are, third generation American, with maybe a tiny bit of generational wealth or generational know-how, expertise. So yeah, you got to keep the guns. The guns is the most important thing. That's the most important thing. If you can't police yourself, if you can't keep yourself armed openly, and not make yourself vulnerable for saying you're armed, right now in big blue cities, you have to conceal or hide that you're armed, and that's illegal, right? So you're vulnerable of a crime. They find out about it. You are thrown behind bars because you don't have the right to protect yourself. Only cops and special people have the right to protect themselves. These are just regular humans. Cops aren't a different type of human. They're human beings. They get to carry one. You don't. Government people do. You don't. They're special princesses. They're the mob, is what they are. In blue cities, these police forces, even if they are kind of, you might say that certain police forces are more conservative. The cops and the firemen are more conservative than the governments that run their cities. And for that, I just say, yeah, bullshit. Bullshit, because the cops go out and they just enforce whatever laws their lefty mayor tells them to. When do you ever see a cop saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to arrest those people for not wearing a mask. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to arrest that guy for carrying a gun. No, he's in a dangerous neighborhood. He should carry a gun. When do you ever see cops? You're going to see right-wing Republican cops arresting people for having guns. The Second Amendment. They're going to arrest people for having a gun, even though the Second Amendment clearly says you have a right to keep and bear arms. For good reason. For good reason, because other people have them. You don't need to break this down. These fucking dishonest academics and intellectuals and gun grabbers, they're so full of shit. They're just evil, bad people. The argument is easy. You have one, I should have one. Criminals have one, I should have one. Why are you putting me at a disadvantage and putting a criminal at an advantage? There's no moral way to parse that out. That's simply about control. They want to decide who gets the stolen money and which money stealers go behind bars, get locked up. They don't want you doing that. But really the only answer to this kind of stuff is what I'm proposing. It's a decentralization of morality and policing. You, citizens, should be the police. You shouldn't have to call a cop. What a cuck move is that? Is there anything more humiliating than having, somebody's breaking into your house and you have to call some guy in his 20s. It's not even in that great shape. He wears his stupid uniform with a bunch of shit on his belt, all this equipment, all these little different holsters and his camera on his chest and this shiny little badge. You got to call this guy in a costume, come over and save me, when you literally have hands and the ability to save yourself, but no, you have to wait for him. I mean, it's so preposterous when you break it down that you pick up a phone instead of pick up a gun. Imagine an alien that's never seen life on Earth, and he sees these guns and he goes, oh, I see what those are cool. Why does that guy have one and that guy doesn't have one? Why is that guy reaching for his phone instead of reaching for that gun? It makes no sense. The only possible way to make it make sense is to say the guys with the legal guns, the cops, and the people that pass those laws are bad people. They're criminals. They're not good people. They want to decide who gets to live and who gets to die. That's not good. There's nothing moral about that. It's the most immoral of all positions you could possibly take. To look at a man and say, you can't reach for a gun to protect yourself. You have to reach for the phone to call me, and I'll decide whether or not I'm going to show up and what I'm going to do. I don't have to protect you. I might. If I'm in the mood to shoot somebody, I might. If I'm feeling like I want to be a hero and get my name on Facebook for shooting somebody. But it depends. I'm probably not going to want to shoot a black guy because that's not popular these days. You get in a lot of trouble if you shoot a black guy. So now you're calling somebody who doesn't want to shoot a black guy. And if the black guy's breaking in your house, you're kind of fucked. You better hope for a white guy breaking in your house. Because everybody loves it when a white guy gets shot. What? A white guy breaking in? Oh, shit. Viral video. Yeah, I'm afraid that's where it comes down to. And by the way, here's the good news. The good news is while everybody else is shrieking and complaining about not having the Epstein client list released or whatever, I don't know why people are fixated on that. I mean, I know why, but that's just such a short list of people where there's stuff that really matters, the crime in your own neighborhood, the fact that you can't defend yourself, the fact that you can't keep guns to keep your local politicians honest. That's what really affects you. Anyway, luckily, the one area of politics that I follow the most are the court cases about guns and the Second Amendment. I follow this guy named Mark Smith at Four Boxes Diner, really articulate guy. And he keeps pretty much, there's a number of them. There's about 3 or 4 channels that I follow, but he's probably the best. And the good news is that the Trump administration and Bondi and Kash Patel so far are getting extremely good grades as far as the Second Amendment goes. They're dismantling the ATF one piece at a time. They're defunding the ATF. They're defunding all these gun-grabbing groups. They're not pressing charges. They're rolling back all the Biden bullshit. And the Supreme Court also seems to be strongly Second Amendment. And that's what really matters. All this immigration stuff, yes, sure, deport them all. I don't give a shit. But more than anything, I just don't want them taking stolen money. And the only way they're able to take stolen money is because politicians are too uppity too confident in these blue cities. And the reason why they're too confident is because their constituents don't have guns. The criminals in their cities do, but not their constituents. Not most of the people voting for them. They have the authority to decide what neighborhood is safe, what neighborhood isn't. They're able to control the chaos because they don't allow their own citizens to step in and calm things down. And let me tell you, that's what happens. You think that these cities that are out of control, Chicago and Oakland, and they would be brought under control very quickly simply for deputizing the citizenry. You don't need every person to have a gun. It'd be great if everybody did, but you don't even need that. Like, if you got a 10% of the population anywhere, 10% of the population anywhere, if they are armed, you're going to see people get polite. Because all it takes is that many people. All it takes, if you've got 100 people in a room, if 10 of them have guns, right now, where it's illegal to have a gun, if you have 100 people and 10 of them have guns, you can guarantee that those 10 people either work for a government or are criminals, right? That's got to change. Those 10 people have got to be regular, good people. You do that and all this other shit changes, okay? You don't hear that people really talking like that, though. The immigration thing is more dramatic. I don't know. I mean, that's the problem is with it, too, is it just politically is too hard to deal with. I mean, but I guess my problems are, too. Cutting off welfare. No, screeching, the mommies, the formula. It's always the baby formula. The babies are going to starve. The grandmother's kicked out on the street, So the fucking Republicans always cower and say, no, okay, we'll let you keep giving the welfare to the immigrants. We'll let the left keep purchasing votes. We'll let the left keep the power in the hands of the cops that they control or want to control. When they talk about defunding the police, it's not about they only say that if they feel like the cops are a little bit too conservative. And they don't want to defund the police. They don't want the cops to go away. They just want the cops that they don't like to go away. They want to replace the cops with communist cops. That's all that is. Antifa doesn't want there to be no guns. They just want to have the guns. They want to be in control of the guns. Anyway, you know all this shit. Will this stuff change? I hope so. I think it kind of is. That's the good news. The trajectory right now is that more states than not are adopting national reciprocity, reciprocity laws, open carry. 20 years ago, there were only a few states that had it. Now it's like, I think half of them do. And the trend is going that direction. I guess there's one positive thing, and that's always true, that I always talk about, and that is that nature mitigates. So every move that the left does to try to tip the scales in their direction is kind of met with an opposite force, There must needs be opposition in all things, and that creates that. So look what happened in the summer of the riots, the 2020 BLM riots. More people, more lefties and liberals became gun owners, legal gun owners during that time frame than probably any other time. If you look at the lines and the graphs, it was just an automatic blip. You don't even need to look at the graph. You know it because you felt it. When you saw those people marching through and setting fire, that's when every single person was thinking, oh, fuck, I need a gun. I need to arm myself. This shit's out of control. You know what I mean? Do you remember that? You might not have been in a big city, but that whole 2020, it was just like fireworks and bombs going off constantly. It was all designed to just freak you out and screw up the election. To me, it's all clear that that's what was happening. But the side effect is that many moderate centrist people saw it and they went, you know what, fuck it. I need a gun. And so liberal attitudes changed towards guns because of the way the left let things get out of control. Because of the left saying, defund the police. I was kind of saying, I was departed with my right-wing friends on that because they're all, blue line, I'm with you, blah, blah, blah. Support the blue. I'm like, I don't back the blue. The back of the blue, they're fucking arresting people for not wearing masks. I don't back the blue. I back me and you. I don't want to call a cop. So the worse things get, the more justification, the more sensible my arguments make. I'm not some kind of accelerationist or anything, but like even with the schools, drag queen story hour, I look at these as opportunities to say, see, this is why you shouldn't send your kids to school. And that's happening too. The more that the leftist things infect the schools, the more people pull their kids out of schools and maybe start private schools or whatever, or at least question why we even have schools. So there's always an opportunity. Nature always finds balance. They go nuts. If we're smart, we go, okay, well, great. Because my goal is don't send your kids to school at all. If you have kids and you're sending them to school, you're sending them into the arms of the enemy. You're sending them into the arms of perverts, pedophiles. Why? Stop doing that. And if it takes them hanging up rainbow flags and advertising, their pedophilia flags on their poles in front of the schools to get you to realize that that's what they've been wanting and doing for years, well, fine. Run that flag up the pole. If for no other reason than to wake up the fucking conservatives to realize, yes, you are sending your children into the arms of the enemy to be indoctrinated by pedophile communists. Stop doing that. I made that music video and I had the cops putting the trans flag on their stuff because they are doing that in a lot of communities, and the trans flag, it's not only just a flag of perversion, the gay flag, the rainbow flag, and all of its iterations. It's a communist flag. So when cops start displaying that and companies start displaying that, I'm like, okay, conservatives, you see what you're dealing with, right? Maybe stop backing the blue. Because they ain't working for you. They are not working for you. They are not protecting and serving you. You need to do that. It's your responsibility. So if you've got these mobsters in your area disguised as local politicians trying to take away your gun rights so that they can steal your tax money and give it to and buy other people's votes via welfare and all these other subsidies, you got to stop that shit. Because ain't nobody going to stop it for you. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Unnecessary outro song to totally waste more